Hello and welcome to the September vlog. I'm now switching up a little bit the writing vlog format. I think when I was posting more frequently, I would do writing vlogs in like whatever chunk I thought would be interesting, but I think just now, the way my writing schedule is going, it's best to just kind of do the vlogs in like a monthly chunk. So this is the September vlog of everything I will be doing in September. I originally thought this month was gonna be real chill, and I was just gonna be working on my Bear Hunt edits. Bear Hunt is my 2024 novel. That title is not final. It will be changed, but yeah, I thought that was all I'd be working on. I sent it out to betas. They're sending me their feedback by the end of this week or the very beginning of next week, and yeah, so I thought I would just be taking that and like that would be the only thing I'd be working on this month. And little did I know. So, things have since changed. I have a lot of things I'm going to be working on this month. I have to do my past pages for Delicious Monsters. I have to finish plotting my Dark Academia. I'm probably going to have to do He-Man edits. I'm probably going to get those notes back from Mattel and I'm going to have to do those edits. I have to do edits for my short story in the All These Sunken Souls anthology. I have to I'm just like, the fingers are just racking up. I have to finish drafting and revise my short story for a secret anthology, and I think that's it. I'm like double checking my calendar just to be sure. But yes, I believe that's it. And throughout the entire month, I'm going to be working on the Bear Hunt edits because it's a much larger novel and I need a lot of time to go through it. And so I'm going to be working on that consistently, basically throughout the whole month, starting next week. So lots and lots to get done, and still potential for something to come back to me because in my last vlog, which I'll link down in the description, I talked about having to write this short piece that is a secret but is related to a already existing book, and that I flipped that over to my editor and it went to copy edit. So I expect that in this month those copy edits will probably come back and I'll have to do those as well. So yeah, it's a really jam-packed month. It went from being like I'm just gonna work on one project to oh my gosh, I have a lot of stuff to work on, which is, it's all doable. It's all very doable. I can do it. And like if need be, for the short story for that secret anthology, the deadline is technically not until November. I just wanted to do it now and like kind of get that done. So if I became overwhelmed at any point, I could really move that to another month. And so I'm keeping that in mind. And also for my short story for the All These Sunken Souls anthology, in the email it's already said that if you need more time, we can give you more time. So there's flexibility. I'm fine. I just kind of, this is what I would like to get done this month, and this is kind of, you know, the peak of my ability to work on things. So that's everything that I have planned. Today is September 1st. I didn't have a great start to the day because I had to go grocery shopping, and I'm a very slow grocery shopper, and I didn't even have a list this time because we didn't have time to prepare. We ran out of toilet paper. I was like, I need to go to the grocery store now. So that took up the whole half of my day. And now I'm just working on my Dark Academia. So I am trying to do the calendar, so to set up all the dates, because I have all the chapters planned now. I just need to like fix up the dates, and then tomorrow I'm going to start working on planning the subplots, etc. So I still have a lot of planning to do, but after this week I'm going to take a break from it because I have to do my past pages for Delicious Monsters, and I also need to start editing Bear Hunt next week, and I don't want to be working on more than 2 projects at one time. So I'm just going to swap off, finish my past pages, and then the week after I can get back to plotting. So I'm just finishing up a bit of plotting now. And yeah, that's basically what I have going on for this month, and I will check in with you regularly and let you know how everything is going.
Hello. backyard of your old farm in the summer. Stayed there for 3 weeks where we learned to love each other. Wrote you letters, sent a message to leave that day. Skip to the present, haven't been so.
Hello, it is Friday. Welcome to the first update. So, what have I been doing since September 1st? So I finished my past pages for Delicious Monsters. Kind of a nightmare, to be honest. It was just like a lot more changes than I thought I would be making, and it took a lot more time than I expected. And so I just ended up needing to basically devote full days to reading, and so everything else had to be pushed aside to make room for that, because I was like, I actually can't do other work while I'm doing this. So there was a lot of schedule rearranging, but it is done now. So that book is done, which is great. So I have thrown it to my editor, really. I was like, I haven't thrown it to the wind. I've given it to my editor. So that's where that is at. And now I have switched fully into working on Bear Hunt. So Bear Hunt is going to be my 2024 novel coming out from Simon & Schuster / Margaret King McElderry. That is not the final title, but that is the only title I have for right now, so that's what I'm calling it. It's about a wealthy Black family that live in Toronto. They own a needs-based school, so it's like a high school. And their mom, who is really their matriarch, has recently died in an accident. And so they're kind of trying to pick up the pieces from there. But then also a student is found brutally murdered in their school. And their brother, who has recently been released from juvie on bail for murder charges, is implicated in it. And so the main character, Sunny, is trying to help him find who the real murderer is, amongst other mysteries and creepy and upsetting things that are kind of being unveiled the more that they look into this. So that is what the book is about. And so I just got my feedback from my beta readers, and so yesterday I basically read through all the feedback and like made a lot of notes on it. I also chatted with some of my readers about like ideas I had for like how I could resolve some of the things that were problems. Got a little got a little bit insecure about the book. They also hyped me up on that, so that was helpful. I find it's really a cycle with the beta feedback for me, in that I go through many different emotions. So I have a form that I have beta readers fill out so that I can really like direct my feedback. I got that idea from Lindsay Puckett. I will have a link in the description to her video where she talks about how she like does this form. So I really like it. So it's like, it's feedback and I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is good. And then I'll get a bunch of new ideas and I'll be like, yeah, I got ideas, and I'll get excited and I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna do this stuff. But then at some point insecurity pulls in and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this actually terrible? And is this like not even like, am I gonna try and fix this and it's not even gonna matter? So the many cycles. I also go through a cycle in which I'm like, maybe I should just change everything, and then it's like too much and I really need to dial it back. But anyway, so the feedback is mostly, I think it's a few things. So pacing and tone. So the first half of the book, the first like 14 chapters, I guess roughly, out of 41 chapters, are quite a bit slower in pace, and they don't have a great horror tone or a thriller pacing. So they're kind of failing on both fronts, because this is supposed to be a horror thriller. So I don't have the thriller pacing and I don't have the horror atmosphere and tone that it's supposed to have. There's the dog forcing her way in. So what I need to do is I need to rewrite some chapters. I need to put in some new chapters and like delete some other ones in order to make sure that that's happening. So to make sure that like enough exciting and like things are happening for the thriller pacing, and that I'm getting in the horror atmosphere into all of my chapters. So that's something else that needs to be done. So yeah, I need to fix that. And then another big thing is the main character, Sunny, needs a lot of stuff ironed out with her. So like her motivations for things need to really be ironed out, and her internal characterization and how the reader knows her really needs to be ironed out and adjusted there. So that's another big thing. And then I have these journal entries in the book, and I'm going to make an adjustment to them because readers felt like they didn't get a good sense of who the character was from the journal entries, and that's not the whole point of the journal entries. There's some plot things with the journal entries, but like a big part of it is they're supposed to be revealing something about the character as well, and they're not really doing that, so I need to fix that. So that's kind of what I've got done, but it is like I think more work than I thought it would be, and my deadline for this, like to get it to my editor, is October 1st. So I'm looking at my schedule. I'm trying to see what things I can move around so I can kind of focus more solely on Bear Hunt, because I know at the beginning of this vlog I was like, I got a lot of stuff to work on, but I really feel like I need to shift some things around so I can work a little bit more exclusively on it. So next week I have to do plotting for the Dark Academia. There's no getting around it. I must finish that because I'm drafting next month, and there's no other time to do it. So I have to do that next week, so that can't move. But I think working on my short story, the sci-fi one, I think that might have to move to October. And then I have one more deadline for another short story towards the end of the month. And so I'm not sure yet if I can make it. I'm going to see how things go. So maybe I can make that deadline, and so I can work on that at the end of the month, or maybe it's not going to happen and I'll just have to ask for a week extension to give me that time to work on it. So we will see. But this week was really looking through notes and like planning what I was going to do. So next week I'm actually going to start doing the Bear Hunt edits, and then I'll have a better idea of like time and like how much time it's taking me to do this, and like, do I really need to have a separate, like, do I really need to be able to work on this exclusively? Bobo! Sorry if you could hear her very loudly cleaning herself. But anyway, that's my plan. And that's what I am gonna be doing in the next week. So hopefully this all works out.
Happy ever. Sitting in your room, working on my first record. Skip to the present, and I still haven't released it. But it's okay, 'cause
Hello. I once again belatedly realized that I hadn't updated on Friday like I was supposed to, so I'm doing it now. So this week was busy. It was busy. So I started on my edits for Bear Hunt because I had done kind of all the planning stuff last week, and so I was hopping into the actual edits this week. But because some of the beta feedback I had gotten was about the beginning being a lot slower than the rest of the book, so those like basically like from chapter 1 to 15 around there, I basically had to rewrite / write new chapters. So I had about 3 new chapters, and so that made the actual like that made the editing process much longer on those days, because I had to write a brand new chapter or like rejig a chapter, and then I had to edit all the other chapters to have it make sense given the new things that I had added. And so because of that, it was just, they were longer days. And so that meant all the Dark Academia plotting that I had been planning to do that day, I couldn't do as much anymore. Like I was like really tired. I also had 2 events that week. So I had an event with the Milton Public Library, and I also had an event with City Line because Blood Like Fate is their September book club pick, so I had a chat with them, and so there was that happening also. And then I also had a chat with a psychologist about potentially consulting together on a book that I want to work on in the future, and so I also did that. So it was just like a lot of stuff going on during the week. And so I was supposed to be done plotting my Dark Academia this week. That did not happen. I will be continuing to plot it into next week just to give myself enough time to do that. So, but in terms of Bear Hunt and like adding those new scenes, I do think they are helping. I do think it's hastened the pace a lot more, and I do think it's added more tension to what's going on. I really do wish I was gonna have time after this to do like a final read through of the whole thing, but I'm not going to. And again, I'm reminding myself that this October 1st deadline is supposed to be for a first draft. So what I'm going to be submitting is going to be a third draft. So it's okay. We will fix things together. We will fine tune, me and my editor. We will do more stuff. So even if I can't achieve the perfection I would like this time around, it will happen eventually. And I at least think this is helping show the potential of how things could be. So essentially, like, they were just doing a lot of investigating in that first half, and now I've had more kind of like horror-like things happening. So, for example, originally, you know, somebody is murdered in the beginning, and it's kind of like they know that happens, and she's like suspicious of her brother because she sees blood on his hands. Whereas this time I've changed it so that she sees him with the body, and she's like, so that it's a little bit more tense and like, oh my gosh, and like there's more opportunity for like horror in that. I also added in a scene where she kind of gets like a little bit stalked in an area, and so now there's this additional element of the fact early on in the book that like someone is watching her and following her, and like something is going on. And so I think that's a lot better now in terms of like the tension in the book. So I do think it's been a very, very good addition to it, and so I'm just kind of making these tweaks as I go along, and so that's kind of what I've been working on. But so I think I'm around chapter 14 now, so I still have 2 more weeks of edits to do for this, so it's still going to be a while, but I at least feel like I'm going in the right direction. And now this week was the only week where I was doing all of these like writing and rewriting new chapters, whereas after this I'm not rewriting any more chapters, so it's going to be a lot more smooth sailing, I think. And so I'm planning next week I'm going to finish up the Dark Academia plotting, fingers crossed, but I'm pretty sure I will finish it up. The only thing I have to do is the plotting of the character arcs for the secondary characters. I haven't done this before when I've used Plotter, but I decided that I wanted to, because it's an ensemble cast book, the Dark Academia, and so I want to plot out, well, technically all my books are an ensemble cast, but anyway, I wanted to more fine-tunedly plot out the arcs of each character, just because there's a lot of layers in what's happening, and I think it'll just be helpful for me to do that. So I've done that for the love interest, and I've plotted the whole B plot of his love interest thing, so that's been good. So I've just got to do a few more of those next week, and then I'm just gonna go through everything I've plotted with like a fine-tooth comb to make sure I have a really solid plan, so that next month when I start drafting, I'm not having to do a bunch of stuff. Like I can just look at what I'm supposed to be writing and write. So, and then next week, I don't know when I'm getting my He-Man edits. I think I might be getting them next week. I'm not sure. So I've kind of blocked off a bit of time towards the end of the week to work on it. I don't really know if that's going to happen or not, but we will see. And then I also have to do my grant application. So that's also why I was consulting with that psychologist. And so I'm applying for a Canada Arts grant to work on this Newlyweds rewrite, which is going to become the couples retreat. And so I wanted to consult with a psychologist, so that's going to be included in my application. So I have to get my application done next week. Also, I'm probably going to end up just working on it on the weekend, just to separate it from writing stuff. Also, I've written a lot of the application already, so it's basically done. I'm essentially just like going through with a fine-tooth comb of all my answers and stuff and all of the things I've noted down, just to make sure that I have like a really solid application, and then I'll go ahead and submit that. And yeah, so that's what's coming up next week, and I will check in with you hopefully on Friday, if not at some point on the weekend.
That's what it feels like, haven't been so happy ever.
Hey Luke, how's it going, man? I just wanted to check in with you and see how things are going on your side. I really think I'm gonna marry this girl.
Hello, it is Friday, and so I'm back with another update. I finally finished something, so that's great. I have finally finished plotting the Dark Academia. It's been a journey. It has been a much longer process than I expected it to be. It's taking me way longer to get this plotting done than I thought it would, but it is now done. I've gone through with everything. I feel like I've got something pretty solid. I think the latter chapters could be a little bit tighter, but I also know that I kind of need to write and see how things turn out to like have those come out a little bit tighter, but I do feel like I'm gonna hit all the beats that I want to hit, even though I haven't planned the second and third books yet. Because of the ideas I have, I am able to like do some vague hinting towards like things that will come up in the next books, if this sells and I get to continue the series. But I've got a good basis to work with. I think I had really, in the back of my mind, like secretly hoped that maybe this year I could like find a way to like plan the second and third books, and it's just not gonna happen. It's completely unrealistic. So I'm going forward with this book, knowing that after I draft it next year, I'm hoping that as like my agent and beta readers are reading it over, that I can then take the opportunity to look into planning some of the second and third book stuff, so then at least like when it goes on submission and things like that, like I can work on that, and then, you know, if it sells to a publisher, at that point I can like be really hardcore and plan the books, and I can make changes to the first book based on stuff I've planned, etc., etc. So I'm not, you know, I can't put all this pressure on myself to like plan out these two books when I don't even actually know if it's going to sell. So I am just doing as much as I can now. And so everything is plotted, and I will be ready next month to start drafting, which I thought would be so much farther away. But of course it's just around the corner. That I'll be starting drafting this just around the corner. So there's that. And in terms of Bear Hunt, I'm still continuing on with my edits, which is going well. I also found a good, I thought of a good idea for a replacement sort of thing for a character. So I had this character who I put in because I wanted a different perspective in the story, and I really needed his perspective. But originally I also had something with him tied to the plot. But then the thing I had for him tied to the plot, I ended up taking out of the story. Like, it just kind of didn't make sense and it didn't work. But then what happened is then then that kind of purpose that he had with the plot was kind of lost. And really only one beta reader pointed it out, but it was something that I was thinking about, and they had kind of pointed out that that character seemed to drop off. And that's probably why that happened, because I lost the plot reason that they were supposed to be related to. And so I found a different way to add it in that I'm very excited about, and I think is going to go over really well. And it really only required some subtle changes from me, because I had already been setting up part of that as like part of the thing that I was originally going to have that character be a part of, so that it ended up working out really well. So I only had to do a few little changes to make that happen, so I'm very excited about that. And yeah, things are going much faster now that I'm not having to draft whole new chapters. I really am getting to tweak this. I think the only thing that I remain kind of unsure about, of like whether it's working or whether it's gonna work, is the journal entries in this book. I don't know how much or if at all I am pulling them off, and I did some changes in them, and I like added some like footnote things, so that I'm having a character kind of annotating their own journal, which I do think adds an interesting element, but I still I don't really know if it's working, so I guess we'll see when my editor gets it, what she thinks of it. But otherwise, yeah, trucking along, that's going well. And then finally, today I worked on finishing up my application for the Canada Arts Grant. The deadline is quite soon, so I already had a lot of stuff done, but I basically just kind of cleaned up what I had and like made sure I was happy with all my answers. I also did an edit on a sample that I had. I had a sample of like, I put together a little sample of kind of like what the writing would look like for the project. Even though I haven't started it yet, I wanted to have something of it to show, which you don't need when you apply to the grant, and I haven't had a sample of the stories I've been applying to write in the past. But this time I was like, you know what, I want to try it, so I did that. But then I ended up writing a whole new one because I thought it was a better place to start. And I love it. I think it came out way better. I think it is so much more interesting and compelling. I'm really happy with the character voice. I think it's like a very good sample, and I think even if I didn't get this grant, I would still at least be like, well, I have a really solid opening to start the story with, which would be great anyway. So that's kind of that. And so the only thing I'm waiting on is I'm going to be consulting with someone for it, or planning to consult with them anyway. And so I'm just waiting on an email from them, basically like saying all the information I need to put into my application, and then I will be able to go ahead and finish and send off that application. So I'm supposed to be getting that today, so it's not yet end of day, so I'm hoping that it'll still come in by the end of day. Otherwise I'll have to follow up and hopefully get it on Monday, but at least all my bits of the application that I have to get done are done, so that's good. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Next week, I'm going to start working on my edits for my short story in All These Sunken Souls. So that's the one about a girl's sleepover that I put together that I really, really like. So I just have a few edits for that. So I'm going to devote next week to it because my deadline for it is at the end of the month. So I do, in fact, have to complete it. And I should also be done my bear hunt edits by the end of next week. So very excited about the prospect of getting things done, and then in October jumping straight into drafting, but I'm not going to think about that right now.
Seems like it's for real this time.
And here we are at the end of the vlog. It is September 30th, and wow, this was a month. This really was a month. I was looking at my to-do list of like all the things I had to get done and like check off for the month, and I was like, wow, this was a lot. This was definitely my busiest month, which I hadn't at all expected. So that was a whole thing, but yesterday I actually sent in the final draft, well, the finished draft of Bear Hunt to my editor, which is the first draft she is seeing, but it is my third draft altogether, I believe. So I sent that off. I ended up just like doubling up the work I had to do for that day, just so that I could get it done, and I just know that when I get to like the final act, I tend to find that I'm like on a roll and I just want to finish. So that's what I did. I took the time to finish, and I am glad, I'm happy about the end. I think that did come together. I did have that moment where I was like, maybe I'll just like change the whole ending. But then, you know, from speaking to betas, but also from like reading over it again, I was like, no, I really do want this to be the ending. So I finished that, and I like packaged it all together from Scrivener, and I sent it over to my editor. I let her know that I'm attempting to make a more fast-paced like thriller, horror thriller sort of pacing book, just so that she could know that going into editing, because I am wanting to achieve that, and she always gives me like wonderful notes. So I'm hoping that because I told her ahead of time that that's what I'm trying to do, since a lot of my other books are more like a medium to slow pace. I was like, maybe if I tell her ahead of time that I want it to be faster paced, then when she's editing, she'll have that in the back of her mind. So yeah, and just sent that off to her, and so we will see what she thinks. It's funny, I was kind of laughing to myself because I have so many things to do, not only this month, but also next month, and probably pretty much until the end of the year, that normally when I send off something to my editor, I then spend a bunch of time afterwards racked with imposter syndrome and like wondering if she's gonna like it or hate it or what have you. But honestly, I just like, I had to move on to the next thing, and so I was just like, we'll see what she thinks of it, and it's fine. I truly did not even have room to get wrapped up in imposter syndrome because I was just too busy. So I thought that I was going to finish my short story for the horror anthology that day. So Thursday, I thought I was going to finish it then as well. But then I noticed that I had inline notes. I don't know, it just like completely like, it just like skipped my mind. So I had edited the whole thing based on the edit letter sent. So all those kind of big picture things. But then I realized that they had also given me inline notes. Like they had gone through the manuscript, both my editor and like the editor of the publisher had gone through and left me all these comments, which I hadn't even realized, and I was like, oh my gosh. But I knew that I could go through that all today, so that's what I spent today doing, was just like going through all their inline notes. Some things I had already addressed in my edits, so then it was kind of just like okay, but like some things I ended up changing and switching around. I ended up cutting out 2 chapters, which, wouldn't you know, it did not at all change my word count. Still ended up with a higher word count at the end, but nobody has mentioned the word count, which makes me think that is probably fine. So I just have like a higher word count there. I think it was supposed to be 7,000 words and mine is 7,700. So, you know, 700 words over. But again, nobody mentioned it, so it seems to be fine. I've also renamed the story. So obviously the title, I had titled it The Sleepover because it was a sleepover, but like I knew that was a terrible title and that wasn't gonna stick. I just like wanted to title it something. And so of course they wanted a different title. So I ended up coming up with the title All My Best Friends Are Dead, because it's about, you know, very intimate, obsessive friendships between girls. So that's what I ended up, that's my new title. I don't know if they'll like that or if that will stick, but that is a new title I decided on. So that's been sent off now as well, which is great. And so that's the end of my work for the month. And then we're just gonna start up again next month. So I'll have the weekend and then I will jump back into it. So next month's vlog in October, I'm gonna be working on, once again, a bunch of different stuff because things are coming in and cycling through, and you know, I've got a bunch of stuff to do, so there's that. And then the only other thing I did is I did complete and send in my application for the grant for the rewriting of the Newlyweds into writing it for the couples retreat. So I finished my whole grant application and set that through. So fingers crossed, I will learn whether or not I have been approved / gotten it next year. So that's also off of my shoulders / my things I have to do. So very happy about that. And yeah, just gonna hang out for the rest of the day, and that's about it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this vlog. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and I will see you again in October. Yes. Bye bye.